down to Politics on the Rocks, episode 15. I'm your host, Nick. We have Chris.
Hello.
Bookie.
Good day.
Cameron.
Yep.
That was Stone Walls by Three Tall Pines. Pretty nice song.
Yeah.
Oh, you have a special guest for us, Cameron?
Special guest, Chattanooga Whiskey. It's a bourbon. Bottled in Bond. This is the one that we have. The blue label. Kind of a nice looking bottle. And surprisingly very good.
Yeah, it's a... Actually, I'm not drinking it. I'm still drinking the Heaven Hill.
Oh,
Heaven's Hill.
son of a gun.
They're all good.
I don't know. Me, it's like, I feel like it's like bright. Kind of like some citrus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that you mention it. It's got a lot of flavor in it.
It's very
Yeah.
crisp. It doesn't really hit you that hard, which is nice.
Yeah, this is a good one, man. I would drink this often.
Shove it right in my...
Some
God.
notes of candy cane and watermelon. I mean, it's a good one.
What?
I just can't. No, it's
Yeah.
good. It's
Oh,
Dirty
my.
dishwater.
Mm-hmm.
That was a joke. It really does not taste like that at all.
No, it doesn't. But it is very good.
Yeah.
And bright and sweet and everything that you want.
Yeah, I'm not
In a
sure what
bourbon.
that means, but...
That's why I'm the professional.
Well,
Just the guy that screams in the mic.
Anyway. Don't forget to like, comment, share, comment. Follow us on our social media accounts.
Please.
Please. We want to interact with you and get all sensual.
Yeah, share our stuff. Make sure people can find a little note of freedom in their life.
Yeah. In this world of totalitarianism that we currently live in.
And in the process, they might hear a couple dick jokes.
Or a lot of dick jokes. It seems to be what we enjoy here on Politics on the Rocks.
You know somebody who needs this in their life.
Cam's the kind of guy.
So what are the subjects for today?
Oh, we're going to be talking about the absolute blunder in Afghanistan that our
Continues.
overlords, our overlords created.
Blunder.
Yeah, for real. And we're also going to talk. We're doing another COVID episode, I guess.
Well, it's more of like a local government episode.
Yeah.
Just so happens COVID's involved, but it's not necessarily about COVID.
Yeah, it's back to school season, folks, so...
So
We
back
got
to
some-
mask, baby. Put your mask back on. And social distance.
Yeah.
or we'll fuck you.
With nothing. All right, so what do you guys feel like starting off first? The Indian River County mandate that went into effect, or...
Sure.
Yeah.
Kick it
I
off.
can probably start with that.
All right, yeah. So, in Indian River County here in Florida, they put a mandate in for the school board. They passed 3-2 for masks having to be worn by children, K through 8, so not affecting high school students. It was pretty interesting to watch the video and kind of see what was going on. Definitely it seemed a little more against the mandate from the public that was there, but they still passed it. The superintendent was there as well. He gave a little speech on his reasonings of why he offered that up as something to do. Because I guess, not guess, they are, like most Florida, are seeing a spike, or has been seeing a spike in new COVID cases. And when people are in charge, they feel like they have to do something, so they start running around with chickens with their heads cut off, and they feel like they got to do something.
Yeah, that seemed like a common theme. It was like, this is our job. Like, we have to do something. It's like they're just like justifying their job somehow. you
Yeah.
know? They just gotta do something.
Yeah, that's always the go-to, right? We have to do something.
Yeah, and in this sense, right, they did something that was a bit rebellious, right? Because they went outside
Yeah, Daddy D.
Daddy D.
They defy Daddy D.
It's interesting, you never see him, like, defy the governor or whatever when it's, like, more freedom to stuff. You know what I'm saying? You never see him like, oh, we don't want to be more.
It's like, whoa. You're saying we can have freedom with masks? No.
No.
We're going to go against the mandate that
Yeah.
you put in.
Yeah, exactly.
But, I don't know. I have a couple things to say if nobody else wants to start everything off.
Yeah, start it off. I got some stuff to say, too.
Okay, we all got stuff to say. Is that what we're here on a podcast for?
No.
Right. So I definitely want to shout out the superintendent because at least during this meeting, that guy was a real classic government guy, little piece of shit. David K. Moore. Actually, my note for underneath his name was fuckface.
Is he our douche of the day?
I don't know. There's 5 people on the school board, and 3 of them voted for it. So there might be 3 others.
Yeah, true.
We got a whole squad of douches of the days.
So, if you might have a link, we might not, but if you just search Indian River School Board meeting, it's the one with the most views because it's obviously to do with mask mandates for children. And he talked about it a little bit and why he was, putting this out there as what he wants. He thinks this should happen. Is main 2 reasons were he was fearing closure of schools based on faculty and teachers getting COVID and then them not having enough staff to operate schools. That makes sense in the sense of a fear to have. And the second one that he kind of mentioned and a couple other people on the school board mimicked him was an appeal to emotion. I think, Chris, you mentioned that earlier, was, parents, their feeling of safety for the children at school is not there. They're having kids not going to school because of, I guess, kids not wearing masks and obviously the COVID rise. So those were his 2 main reasons that he really gave and why he wanted to do this. And for me, it just, I don't know, it really didn't make sense. First off, so I kind of looked at this a couple ways, and one way I did not want to look at this was him going against, or the county school board going against Ron Desantis. Because for me, that wouldn't be necessarily truthful, because a lot of times I would say, well, fuck what the government or the governor says.
Right.
So it's not really a place that I wanted to go from, but it's still a reasonable argument to have. But for me, it was not what I wanted to do. But I don't know. You can look at it a couple ways. And one way is which is for me is a leap. But if we agree masks actually work, right, and this will actually have an effect, there's a couple things you have to look at and why this possibly won't have a full effect. One, if you look at kids going to school right now in Indian River County, there's quite a bit still wearing masks, even though it's a mandate that says you don't have to, but you can if you want to. Mm-hmm. Second, these are kids wearing masks that you're forcing to wear. These aren't adults who still don't wear them correctly. These are kids who pick their nose, shove their fucking face into crayon boxes.
They probably trade masks at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean this
masks.
The fact that you think that kids are able to wear this to a degree that on studies that you need to wear to actually show a significant effect.
Right, for 8 hours at that.
Yeah, it's just unreasonable to think that this can happen.
And that was one of the points that Mrs. Rosario went into.
She mentioned.
I think we'll probably get more into her, but she was just who's going to be the mask police? Or who's going to be 24/7 watching these kids? But go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, I mean, so those are my 2 main points. If you actually believe masks work, it's one, a lot of kids already are wearing masks. A lot of the faculty is wearing masks. So now you're just kind of putting this authoritarian imposing mandate out there that now even if kids do wear masks, the fact that you think they're going to wear them correctly, they're not, which means the mandate really is useless. And it's just, again, if we go back to a governmental thing, they're doing this to say, oh, at least I did something. Right. But where it truthfully comes from, where I come from, I don't really think masks work all too well.
Well, the data doesn't seem to suggest that, right?
At best, it suggests they're not sure.
Right. I'd even go, and maybe this is bold of me to say, but I'd even go to say that it suggests the opposite. Right?
Yeah, anything, you can find specific things that will help you. But there, on both sides, you can find a decent amount. Obviously, a lot of causational graphs can show that. I mean, there's a ton of them now. Tom Woods is he's probably one of the first people to do it.
Yeah.
Where he's done graphs where he marks out on a graph where a mask mandate was enforced and put into law, and then you see the cases increase and decrease. And there's no correlation between a mask mandate and how cases are handled. So just on a correlation basis, which again doesn't necessarily mean causation,
right? Because to be fair, they spiked within the same months through all states. But his point was that no, from states that implemented mask mandating and social distancing, kind of orders, versus states that didn't, there was no significant deviation.
Yeah,
at least no meaningful deviation, right? So
correct. And a lot of what he said too is, look at a graph without his graphics on there, and try to point out when the mandate was put in place, and you'd be wrong 99.9% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, again, there's a lot of studies that have come out in the past year, a lot of meta-analysis with masks that show there can be a significant effect. A lot of that is on N95 masks, worn correctly, changed out every day.
I actually think you're supposed to change them out every 3 hours.
Really? Is that what it is?
I think
Who
so.
knows? It's probably every hour.
The medical mask worn in a medical setting, you're supposed to change them out every time you touch it, basically.
Yeah. This is a sanitary setting.
Correct.
We're wearing them out in the real world.
Yeah, it's not plausible.
I think what would be better if people just started wearing plastic bags over their heads and tied them
really tight,
kind of snug around their neck.
Some would say airtight, so the virus can't get in.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
No, and then
that's genius.
Yeah,
I never thought about that.
And another study that, in certain circles, has gotten a lot of push through is the Georgia study. I'm not sure you probably heard of it, where it showed something pretty significant. Oh, so it was a study done in Georgia. I think it was on 90,000 students. It was over 100 schools in Georgia.
Oh, wow.
And they were kind of looking at mass mandates in certain schools and mandates in other schools, and trying to see the data they could compile, what was being shown significant that was being done. I forget in the summary, which is what most people read, it showed, I forget what it showed significant, but what it let out that was actually in the actual study was they were looking at mass mandates for children, and it showed no significant change.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't publish that in the summary. So a lot of people were kind of wondering why that wasn't published.
Right.
They kind of just either saw that information, decided not to publicize, not focus on that.
Right.
So again, there's different ways you can put it. At best, mask mandates for kids, they're just not sure. And then you can also look at the negative effects that people have been talking about between, I think in that video, a woman was talking about her child got gum disease from it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Learning disabilities kind of, it hinders or increases the disability because now they're dealing with something else.
Right, yeah.
Besides
you're
dyslexia and ADHD.
Someone with ADHD or something like that, having a piece of cloth attached to your face all day is definitely distracting, I would imagine.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
for sure. That would be tough.
What do you guys think? I got more, but take a little break.
I thought that there was a lot of good points brought up by the people who were against it, and a lot of appeal to emotion and appeal to authority from the other side. It really was. There was no convincing argument as far as I could see.
Yeah, it seemed
on
like
the
they kind
other
of had
side.
their. Sorry, it seemed like they kind of had their mind made.
Yeah, and it was just it was almost the typical thing we've been seeing, which is well, it's obvious, or just how they perceive it, and there's nothing that's going to change their mind. It's kind of like how we said last episode, if
it's a religion.
Yeah, if you have your mind made up on one side or the other at this point, you're just going to stay on that side, and you're going to try and prove your point without, you're going to try and manipulate, maybe not manipulate the data, but see the data in a way that supports whatever you think.
Yeah, I think that's what it ultimately comes down to at this point. It's just going to be a battle of endurance, I feel like. Whatever side is just going to kind of be all right, this is fucking ridiculous, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. In regards to who's for it and who's against it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah,
you go ahead. No, you go here.
I was just going to say, one of the points that Jacqueline Rosario brought up, and she was one of the big advocates against it, that I thought was probably the most, well-spoken and had, some really good points that that were relevant, they were real-world, real points, not just oh, well, we got to do something, or, those kinds of arguments. She said that, the governing authority in the state, and as far as, the public school system goes, is not the local school board, which I think is kind of a point that we might be a little bit conflicted with, because I think we all kind of support, more decentralization,
Yeah.
as much decentralization as possible. So we would like to see school boards make their own decisions, and but in this case, you know, it's a matter of which option provides the more freedom for people. And so the option of following the state guidelines provides more freedom for people. And so I think that's why we're on that side in this case. So she made a really bold statement. She said that if you go against what the department, like as a school board member, if you go against what the Department of Education and the Department of Health recommended and what the state level executive order recommends, then you are breaking the law. And she was like, I'm not going to break the law to strip people's freedoms away.
Yeah.
No, yeah, she made a lot of good points.
Yeah, and one of the things that DeSantis just enacted in June, it was June, the end of June, was the Parents' Bill of Rights, which they referenced pretty often.
Yeah.
The side that was against the mandates referenced pretty often. And they made it pretty clear that they're not against masks. They want kids who feel uncomfortable not wearing a mask to wear one, but they don't want it to be mandated. That's
kind of a I guess I'll step in here, but that's one of the interesting parts about this too, is like this is sort of framed that it's about the kids, but it's really not. It's really about the staff, right? It's whether or not the teachers are going to get it. And a lot of this has to do because there was a teacher who died, and she died not because she got COVID within school. She got COVID on summer break and then came back and died. That was the lady Blair that they mentioned a couple times in the thing. So she didn't even technically get COVID within school. She got COVID in the summer.
She's probably doing blow in some strip club.
Yeah, I'm
Cancun.
sure. I'm sure people who know her love to say that.
Yeah.
But
Sorry.
Oh, wait, she died.
yeah.
Oh, shit.
That's all right. Hopefully she went out.
Yeah, she was probably doing blow.
Yeah.
I hope so.
So anyways, yeah. So that was one of the main points. I mean, they brought that up. That was one of the first public speakers who kind of came out and said something, had a moment of silence for her. And then another lady in Fellsmere just got COVID and died. You know. Anyhow, so that was one of the big push, and the other push was that there was 276 cases of COVID within the first 2 weeks of school being opened and whatnot, and so that's sort of the data which they justified putting on mask mandates. And so one of the things that I thought interesting, Dr. Moore, I guess David,
just call him
K.
David.
Moore.
Don't give him the doctor.
Don't give him the doctor.
Dave.
We'll just call him
Dave the Dick.
We'll call him.
Yeah, none of these people
We'll
are
call him Mr.
real
Moore.
doctors.
So he was the one making the recommendations, like Bookie mentioned a few minutes ago. And at the beginning of the year, or the beginning of the school year, he came out and said, "Hey, look, we're going to have open, no mask, face-to-face contact with students. This is where we're going with this, And we've learned a lot from last year and so on, and learned a lot of things to do and not to do. And then within the first 2 weeks of school, they get these cases, and then he's like right back to mask mandates, right? And also at the same time, like being the sort of guy that's like, well, me, I don't like masks, but then
You could hear the crowd grumbling after that comment.
Yeah,
That was hilarious.
yeah, and then he's the one that's recommending
Yeah.
to mask up the kids again, and it's like,
Mask up,
What-
save lives.
what did you learn, and so one of my big things is. So this is a 2-week mask mandate, right? It's supposed to be 2 weeks long, and then they're going to review the data, which their data seems pretty flawed, and Miss Rosario mentions that in the thing that it's not really specific.
Yeah.
It's not like you don't know if it's staff, student. The data is garbage. That's how I see it, right? The data doesn't seem good, and she also mentioned this point that they just also implemented mask mandates for staff, which I don't have any problem with that. Like if you work for the government says you have to wear a mask, and you're the one that's this is really about them. Let's be honest. But it's
Yeah.
really about the staff.
Yeah, it doesn't affect the kids.
It really doesn't.
Right.
So it's about them. And so they implemented that, and it didn't really have any time to, like, show any data on it because they implemented it, had the school board meeting, and then they implemented the mask
Good.
mandate for the kids. So there was really nothing there. There's no data for that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it was a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah, of the effects
Yeah.
of just having teachers, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, which could have made a big difference. And like Bookie said, a lot of the kids are wearing masks too, right? And anyway, so
Already before the mandate.
exactly.
Yeah.
One of the things that actually, to the credit of one of the ladies who voted for this, she mentioned this point, and I actually after I thought about it, so I'm wondering, right? They do these 2 weeks. They have kids with masks on. The data comes back. Either way, it's screwed, right? So say the data comes back, right? And it seemed to make an effect, right? Quote unquote. It made like, so now you have less cases, right? So what are they going to do now? Are they going to say, okay, well, we're going to take the mask off?
No, they're going to
Not
use
a
that
chance.
to justify keeping
Exactly.
them. Yeah.
So now the 2 weeks gone and the cases are going up. What are they going to do?
Yeah.
Take
yeah,
off the mask?
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I doubt it. Absolutely
Right,
not.
exactly.
So that was one of the things that I was thinking the whole time. I'm like, this is just the same thing.
It's like a quasi way to just like enforce it long term.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll review
So-
it on a 2-week basis, but like you just said, no matter what
Right.
the results are, they're going to use those results.
There's no data that's going to say, don't put the mask.
Right.
Like, take the mask off.
If it plateaus and there's no new cases, it's straight across.
Yeah.
They're going to use that like, oh, look, it's working. We need to keep doing it.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
so that was my thing, and it brought up this point of, I just think we're gonna get to a point, and I think it's gonna be in history. I think it's gonna be a couple years from now, and we're gonna look back on all this nonsense, and we're gonna be like, what did we do? Like, well, how did we allow that to happen for as long as we did? Much like Afghanistan, right? Like people are looking back now and saying, how did that go on for as long as it did? And
Yeah.
I think the same thing with this COVID stuff is it's not going to end, and it's just going to continue going on. And we got the data, and we got to keep people safe. We got to do it for these reasons. Just like in Afghanistan, we got to do it there. There's nuclear weapons of mass destruction, and then it goes into, we got to fight the Taliban for some reason.
Yeah,
and
now
so
that
on.
we left, it's women's rights.
Yeah, so like we keep adding on to this thing, and it's like, for the people who are on the fence about this stuff now, that is a great example of looking at something and just like allowing it to go on and on and on, and just being like, oh, it's 2 weeks, it's one more week, it's just 1 year of mask, it's just one, you know what I'm saying? And it just keeps going and going and going, and then you look back 5 years from now, and like these kids had to social distance and wear masks their entire school year, and it's like, it might not be a big deal to you because you're not in high school, but like, because
It's
when you were in
fucking
high
these
school,
kids up.
yeah, when you were in high school, you got to like talk to people and see their faces,
Yeah.
and whatever you did with your faces, like you got the opportunity to do that, but they're not getting that opportunity, and I think it's bullcrap, and I also think there's a lot of crap that's kind of unseen with some of these mask mandates, like like psychological stuff, like depression and
Well,
all
I
kinds of
just
stuff.
seen something recently in Victoria, and I actually I posted about it on my personal account. But in Victoria this year, I don't think they had not I don't think there was not a single child that died from COVID. Yet they had like 274 kids commit suicide in this year, and it's like that's like, I don't know, like 2 times more than the previous year.
Jeez.
At this point in the year. And to jump back to what you were saying, Cameron, I think you brought up a good point about how right now everybody's arguing about whether we should, whether we shouldn't, and like you said, in whatever, if it's 10, 15, 20 years, we're going to look back and be like, just what you were saying. Wow, this is crazy. And I think that brings up a good point, because when, I don't think there's anybody that can look back at, you know, some of the most horrific dictators like Mao and Stalin and Hitler, and I don't think there's really any, you know, obviously there's exceptions to every rule, but I don't think for the majority of people there's really any dispute behind how those guys were able to do what they did, right? Like, everybody can agree it was like an incremental thing, and it was like suppress the opposition, like things like this. And I don't think it'll get that bad. You know, I really don't think it's going to get to that here, but it just brings up the point that, like, we're so easy to forget history because in 15 years we're going to look back and say exactly what Cameron was saying, but we're still not going to learn from it, you know? Mm-hmm. We're still not going to learn from it because there's going to be another thing and we're going to fight about it, and then fast forward 10 years, it's going to be like, wow, how the fuck did we do that for so long? And it was the same thing with the Iraq war, right? I mean, when we went over there was a lot of people opposed it, a lot of people for it. I'd say probably more people for it. But now looking back, I think like one of the latest polls was like 90-something% of the people think the entire Iraq war was a mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you think that that's going to stop us, like going to make us think twice about going to war again? No.
The only thing I've ever heard people say about the Iraq war is they try to, like, justify it. They're like, well, Saddam was a bad guy. Like, okay, well, if China invaded us because Biden was a bad guy, like, you know,
yeah,
would you support that? Is that justifiable?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That Cameron actually took a point that I had thought of the same thing about the, you know, 2 weeks when they look at it.
Yeah.
Which is a great point that you brought up, Cameron, because it's true. And that's that is something you can take almost to every level of government there is, from your local school board, your city council, your statewide to your federal-wide, which is they rule in the state of what can I do right now that makes it look like I'm actually doing something. Because they're either worried about re-election, they're either, and even at local level, people are like, well, they only make like $30,000 a year. Okay, yes, but they also get to know certain people in higher ups. They get to know, you know, other people who are connected. There's a lot of connections that go on, even at a local level.
Right, that you can't put a price tag on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they're thinking about these things as well. And when this happens, you get this crowd, or like as we've heard, you know, follow the science, which is the stupidest thing right now to do, because if you look at science or you know a little bit about science, if it's an emerging area that's being studied on, you really won't have a good idea of what's going on, at least for another 3, 4, possibly 5 years.
Right.
Right.
So from where a libertarian standpoint, from where I can come from, is just let people make their own decisions. The people who made the wrong decisions, they make the wrong decisions. The people who make the right decisions, make the right decisions. At least it was their own fucking decision. It wasn't something that was pushed on them by some superintendent sitting at a table with a mask on, and he takes it off to talk like a little cuck. Like,
right. And then in that case, we have data, right? Like, we have people who made one decision and we have people who made
Correct.
another decision.
Yeah.
And then we can see which one fared better, right?
Yeah.
Whereas in this case, everyone has to follow one rule, and then we don't get to see what the difference is.
Yeah.
Between the people who made, you know, each decision that was proposed.
Yeah, not only that, the data we do get, all the deviations are like, you know, hair-splitting, differences in what happened.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have no drastic difference where one crowd did the complete opposite of the other crowd, because you're not allowed to.
Exactly.
So there's no real way to see what could have been in a sense, you know.
And even David Moore said himself, I believe that is his first name, right?
Sure, David Cuck, whatever you want to call him.
David K. Moore.
K stands for cuck, probably.
Anyways, he even said that, you know, and this in his mind was like justification for, it made it like all the better that he was like, you know, pushing for masks. But he said that a mask mandate is just a play on words of highly suggesting
Yeah.
to wear masks.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really happy that Jacqueline Rosario brought that up whenever she made her points, because that was just like a ridiculous statement.
Yeah.
Jacqueline, please respond to my email.
And that's a typical governmental thing to say, or even from, you can say governmental, which is true, but also a person from power, right? Well, yeah, I'm going to say this, and I hope you follow it, but really, it just means, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, it's
just
like all right, then fuck off.
Exactly. But so when I was looking at this too, as we've all noticed, obviously COVID cases have increased in Florida. That's something that we're not trying to say isn't happening. Mm-hmm. But I was like, all right, so obviously they come back to school. He has a fucking heart attack because he's probably getting a couple emails from parents saying the cases are going up. There's a lot more kids getting COVID right now. I was like, well, what is the difference between this time last year and this time this year? It's around 4 times more this year.
Yeah. So,
like, if you take that information in and saying, well, the fact, because a couple times in that board meeting, he brings up, and a couple of the people who agree with him bring up, well, we're seeing the same amount a week that we saw in a month last year, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, because the entire state's seeing a 4 times increase in COVID.
Right. Yeah.
But the deaths are the exact same.
That statistic was just like so besides the point.
Yeah.
We know that the COVID cases come in waves.
Exactly.
And so if you're comparing to a month or 2 months ago, like, it's besides the point. Like, it's entirely besides the point.
And not
it just so happened that the recent wave happened right at the beginning of back to school.
Exactly.
And then it just kicked off this whole mess. But,
I was just saying, just not to mention that, like, people will get it and they have an immunity to it.
Yeah.
What's that? What's an immunity from getting COVID? No one's heard of that.
Yeah, like after I got ran over by the F-250, I had immunity to F-250s.
Yeah, you couldn't be run over by one.
Right.
Yeah. Wait, immunity not from the vaccine? Are you sure?
Sure.
Even though in the CDC, or I don't know, actually don't know if it was a CDC report, I shouldn't say that, but there was a report that just came out that showed the natural immunity was far better than...
Yeah, even the CDC had to admit. They said that it lasts at least...
It was a CDC report, right?
Right. They said this in January. They said that it lasts at least... The natural immunity from getting COVID lasts at least 8 months. So, I'm sure you can tack on at least 4 or 5 months onto that, considering the CDC made the statement. So,
True.
Yeah.
And what you said about, he's all of a sudden getting some emails and stuff. The one lady, Mrs. Terry Barenborg, she was talking about how she got like 80 emails or something. I'm like, how many students do you have in your district? Like, that's nothing. That's a fraction of a percent of...
What relativity is that?
Right. It's
literally
nothing. It's a drop in a
this
bucket.
Is, who did this? I don't know, a bunch of PhD, a bunch of fucking doctors, no external funding.
Yeah, no, they're PhDs. That's what we'll call them, because they're not doctors.
Yeah.
I know the one lady's wearing a white coat in her picture as if she's like a medical doctor or something. Yeah, you're not a medical doctor. Please,
if you are,
stop.
You're not my medical doctor. So
yeah. All right, so it's saying that SARS-CoV-2 vaccinees had a 95% increased risk for breakthrough infection with the Delta variant compared to those previously infected when the first event occurred during January and February of 2021. The increased risk was significant for symptomatic disease as well. When allowing the infection to occur at any time before vaccination, evidence of waning natural immunity was demonstrated through SARS-CoV-2 vaccinees had a 95%... Oh, it's just repeating. Oh, yeah. Whoops. I read something. Yeah. So, basically, just to prove our point that the natural immunity is far more superior than dicks and butts.
Correct. And it's... to go back on, like, again, I think...
But you don't get 2 Krispy Kreme donuts a day.
That's true.
So there's that you got to take into account.
Damn.
But I don't know. I think this point can't be driven home enough with most governmental entities and people on boards. But again, this is local, so I can call him out. David K. Moore is... He gets this idea that he has to do something. And then his, like, only thing to do is what he sees feasible. But, like, he won't look further past that, or he can't. And he can't see that the whole entire state has an increase. we have all these kids and all these teachers coming back together. Cases are going to happen. It's unfortunate, but it's going to happen. And like Cameron stated, when this happens and they get COVID, because again, these are just cases. These aren't deaths. These aren't hospitalizations. These are just typical cases. People getting sick. They will have an immunity to it. And then within 2 to 3 weeks, which is when they will come back to look at it, most of the staff will either have had it or have an immunity, or they've had an immunity before.
Yeah, and if the
should
kids,
be passed.
If a lot of the kids get it and gain natural immunity, that would be good for the district. The way I see it, because I mean, obviously it wouldn't be good for. They should definitely have some. I could see some checks for like before kids come in the school, check their temperature, things like that, just to make sure that they're not coming in and infecting people who could actually die from this. But if kids get it and recover from it, that's a good thing, because they are going to recover from it. Unless they're really sickly, which in that case,
outliers.
They should be finding alternative ways of receiving education realistically, because it's just the way it is. Unfortunately, those kids are probably going to get a worse education because of that. But I don't know. There's just people need to be free to make their own decision as to how they're going to deal with the risk.
Yeah, and I would just like to tack on to that point that you just made is people need to do what's right for them, right? Do what's right for you. Wear a mask if
Whiskey wisdom,
right here. If you feel that you need to wear a mask because if you have something going on, or you need not to be in school because of whatever condition, just like you just mentioned, then wear a mask. Nobody's saying not to wear a mask.
Yeah.
If you need to get a vaccine, get a vaccine. Just don't push that stuff on other people.
And that's the other thing is, they're encouraging people to wear masks as if it's a viable preventative measure, and there's really no proof to that.
Yeah.
And so really you're kind of putting people at risk, because people who otherwise should probably not be there, they probably should not be there every day, because maybe they have some sort of autoimmune disease or something that's, it could be really dangerous to them. They might actually show up to school consistently wearing a mask thinking they're going to be safe.
Yeah,
and then they catch it. Because it's a false
security.
Exactly.
That's a good point.
It's like a false security blanket.
Wait, somebody was saying that back in Dr. Fauci?
Yeah, Dr. Fauci. Yeah.
It's more attacking.
He was saying
April
that,
of 2020 or something like that.
He was saying that it could lead to like fiddling with your mask, and they don't really work, and it can give a false sense of security.
Kind of like breathing through a chain link fence or something like that.
Yeah. Dr. Fauci.
Mosquito through a chain link fence.
What was his first name? Tony?
Antonio.
Was it Antoni?
I think it's Fettuccine.
Anthony Fettuccine Fauci?
Yeah.
Antonio de la Fauci.
Antonio de la Fauci.
No. Yeah, I mean, again, the mask point, because I don't really want to speak about COVID. This is more about a governing body taking freedoms away from parents to actually parent the children, which is terrible. But in the instance that I listened to, again, this obviously was about mask mandates, but nowhere did anybody bring up, like, did you upgrade your filtration system within your AC, which has been proven to at least have a significant effect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They met Rosario, that's her last name, I think, right?
Yep.
Jacqueline.
Yep.
She mentioned that we just, within the beginning of the week, or last week, so 6 days ago, made it so employees had to wear masks. So they did a change. We don't know if they made any other changes that actually take effort and actually cost money. But we do know that before they even saw that change they did make actually had a difference, they're going ahead and making another change. Mm-hmm. Which just tacks on to what you guys have said, is now if they see a positive effect because all this is going on, they're gonna put that towards, because we put masks on kids is why it worked.
Yeah.
Not because the cases are stagnating in the state of Florida and they're actually going on decline. So within the time frame, it's probably going to be lower anyways.
And what's funny is, like, they keep saying follow the science, but that's like the most, from an experimental point of view, because, I mean, let's face it, this is all just one big fucking experiment. The world has never, modern world has never experienced anything like this, so this is all just a big experiment.
Yeah.
But that's like experiment 101. You only want to change one variable at a time, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
So-
here we are. We're just like flocking whatever whatever feels right.
Yeah. So the chick with the silver hair mentioned that point to
That's
Dr. Moore, and like there was no response. You know,
That's
like
I think that's Dr. Mara Schiff.
Schiff, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Silver hair.
We'll call them all out at the end.
Yeah. We'll call. Yeah. But that's like what Bookie's waiting for
I'm
over
waiting
there.
for it. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, here you go. Here are your people. Anyways,
And
so
this.
Hold
Yeah,
on,
sorry,
wait.
go ahead.
So when she brought that point up, like she kind of asked him a question, like what So what do we do if this happens or this happens? And like it was like a silence, like wait, like
You're not supposed to ask that.
yeah, exactly. Like
And then when they
like
asked
we
like
have-
why not the high schoolers,
yeah, another
like because
point.
they won't fucking listen to us. That's
Yeah.
why.
Yeah, like that is so true.
And
That
no,
is
his
so-
reasoning that he gave was, we have enough staff to cover teachers. Which is like, okay. So it's not really about saving the teachers, just make sure you have enough staff. Like,
No, but
Right,
just
that
to-
was
just-
like his whole point was
Yeah.
just keeping the schools open. Which I guess that's I don't know. Go ahead.
Don't get on his side, dude. I'll jump across the table. No. But I mean, just from that standpoint, like they really didn't think about that. They really didn't think about that question. You know, like, which makes me like moderately angry that they didn't think about like what is going to happen when the data comes in. Like they just like brush it off as like, well, we'll make another decision in 2 weeks.
yeah.
But not like, well, if this does happen, then this is what we'll do. It's just like
There's no plan.
there's no actual
that's-
plan for what happens in 2 weeks.
That's the
it's just
whole-
saying like, well, we'll make another decision when the time comes. But there's not like a plan.
Yeah,
you
that's
listen
the
to
whole
us,
like.
plebs. We'll figure it out for you,
Yeah,
plebs.
it's like
Don't worry.
like you told us in the beginning of the year that you learned something, from the previous year. It doesn't seem like you learned anything,
Right.
And
if
it still
you-
seems like you're like shooting from the hip.
If
and,
you have
like-
no standard or guideline moving forward to what it is you're going to make this decision based off of,
yeah, it's just
and that's
like
I think that's by design. They keep it ambiguous and they keep that vaguity. I don't know if that's a word, but now it is.
Yeah.
So that they can make up their mind in 2 weeks. They don't want to shoot themselves in the foot, right? Like say, okay, if cases go down, we're going to take the masks off and
Right.
go back to regular life. It's we'll see what happens.
There's
and then
really
decide
only
from
two
there.
possibilities in the data,
Yeah.
either up or down. I mean, or
And
I
both
guess,
of
I
them-
guess it could plateau, but
Could-
it's very unlikely.
Yeah.
So either it goes up or down. So really, you got to come up with 2 plans.
true.
That's it.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. Okay. Good. I feel good about that.
Yeah, I would even throw out that everything you said, Cameron, it's because they really don't give a shit. like
No.
they don't. It's one of those things where I would bet my left testicle that when he said that,
Give me that nut.
we learned something from last year. He's like, "Fuck, I really hope I don't have to do anything with COVID again this year," because
Yeah.
I really have just been jerking it to some anime porn this whole summer.
Oh Jesus.
So,
We went there, folks.
yep.
That's
But,
I was gonna say when you said we're gonna call everyone out, I was like, and this is the point where we start having issues going out in public. Like, hey, you're that motherfucker from Politics on the Rocks.
No, it's I don't know, man. It's this thing kind of fired me up more than I think any of our other topics, mainly because it is local, and it's one of those things.
Extremely local.
Yeah,
It's
like
our county.
it's very unfortunate to see, especially when you watch that full video, which I personally didn't, but I skipped through it, and the amount of people who were actually there, who were from the public side against the mask mandate being enforced,
And they still did it.
and they still did it.
Yeah, like Chris said, they had their minds made well before.
Of course they did. They're
It
people.
was like, let these people talk. I don't know. It feels very weird.
Well,
to
the
me.
one, Terry Barenborg, she was like, "Boo me all you want. You're gonna disagree." Like I thought that was so ridiculous.
I think she was one against it.
Really?
Yeah,
No.
I think you're talking about. I got a list here.
Yeah. Right.
I think you're talking about Peggy Jones.
Oh, it must have been Peggy Jones. I thought it was Terry Barenborg.
Yeah, cause no, she was one of the ones that was.
She was the second vote against.
Peggy
it.
Jones, she
That's
was
cool.
actually the principal of Sebastian River High School when my brother was there, and she was actually very good at
Yeah,
the
I saw
time.
that.
So yeah, it's kind of a shame to see that she's on the wrong side of this.
So I apologize to Terry Berenborg. Didn't mean to, throw you under the old Indian River School District bus there.
I think she'll sleep at night still.
But she doesn't give a fuck what you say.
Yeah, I do think it's good to mention that. Again,
I just want to say I looked at her bio and I saw that she instituted a stricter dress code, and so I just assumed she voted for it.
Yeah, that's not a bad conclusion to come to. But again, one of these things that they kept bringing up, which an appeal to emotion, was all these parents are scared for their children. But, which I didn't hear anybody during that meeting say, which, again, it's understandable, but still, something that came to my mind is, well, what about all these parents who are going to be scared of sending their children now to school because now they have to force their kids to wear a mask? Yeah. So really, you're just choosing and picking which parents you care for.
True. Right.
Because it's probably close. You could say it's easily a 50-50 split, but it's in River County, so it's probably like a 70-30 split.
Yeah.
Against and for.
Yeah.
So you're caring for the 30% and not giving a shit about the 7% who are like, so if you're really actually cared about kids going to school because more kids are not coming to school because parents don't feel it's safe. Well, if they don't come now because they don't want to send their kids with a mask on, do you take the mask mandate away? No, you fucking cuck.
No,
you don't. Because you're for this mask mandate.
Yep.
Because now the teachers will come.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As long as the
and
teachers
you know how we get through this? Civil mass disobedience.
I can say.
I thought you were going to say Civil War. I was like, let's go.
I mean, there's one way, but
there is one thing I tried to look up real fast.
Can you imagine Civil War starting over masks
for children?
I wish.
Like, I have everything that's happened.
Yeah.
It would make total sense though within our society.
Yeah, it would.
But I did try to see because we have a charter high school within the Indian River County. We have a private high school, St. Ed's, and obviously charter high school. I tried to see what their mask mandates were, but as far as I could tell, charter hasn't started until the 24th, so it's very recent. So I couldn't really find out if anything was happening there. And same thing with St. Ed's.
St. Ed's has a mask mandate.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, they've had it the whole time. Yeah.
Bunch of cucks over there.
Yeah.
But
it's island people.
They got
Mama, Papa.
Rich lungs that they got to save.
Mama, Papa, I need my mask.
Yeah, a good thing to bring up though, and Rosario, she brought it up as well, is there is the scholarship you can apply for. I think it's the Hope Scholarship, which is for if you feel like your student or your child, it was for bowling, like a massive bowling, you want to change schools, you can apply for it. But now it's for mask mandates too. If you feel like you don't want that, you can apply for this Hope Scholarship, and they'll give you a voucher of money, and then you can send your kid to a private school, a different school within a different district. So that's something to think about if you're actually a parent, unlike me.
Yeah, and that's one of the things Jacqueline Rosario brought up. She's like, yeah, so what's the solution for, if you don't want to wear masks, you go to a private school. It's like, obviously that's not what we want. We don't want to lose all of our
That's
students.
what I want, though.
Well, yeah, I would love to see more kids in the private school system. But, yeah, I don't know. I had something else. But
you could always homeschool.
Yeah.
No, that's too much work, guys.
Don't get started.
It's way easier to just bitch about what your tax-funded school is doing.
Yeah.
And if everybody wants to say like, I don't have a child, so like I can't say shit about this. Why my fucking tax money goes to this?
Yeah,
so,
right.
Good point.
Yep.
Yeah. You don't want to take my tax money for it, I'll stop talking about it immediately.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, if I don't have to be forced to support it, I don't do whatever the fuck you want with it. I'm not paying for it.
I don't care about your plight with the government at that point.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's not how taxes work.
That is not how they work.
Because they're evil.
No.
Instead, we get to pay for the Taliban to have attack helicopters.
Yep. But before we get to that, I should want to point out these people on the board. So,
call them out.
So, the sheeple who voted for this mandate are Brian Barefoot, Mara Schiff, and Peggy Jones. So,
okay.
Can suck a big fat one, you three. And then the two that were against it, you may have noticed already by mentioning the names, Jacqueline Rosario, thank you, and Terry Berenborg.
Yeah.
Sorry if I got your names wrong, but good for you two for going for freedom. And those three can suck a fat one.
And consider that when you're voting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're
just
against
gotta
mask
do-
mandates, when you see that freaking those names on the ballot, keep them off. Yeah.
Yep.
Gotta voot them out.
Just voot.
Just voot.
Just voot.
So is this it? All right, so we have a special guest today. It's Cameron and I's Uncle Craig from he's in Thousand Oaks, right?
Yeah,
Thousand Oaks, California. So figured just be kind of cool to have someone, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum to just kind of talk about what they're experiencing over there. So how's it been going, man?
Well, we're going in reverse. We're going backwards a little bit here. We weren't too far ahead. It's not like we were up there with the caliber of like Florida and Texas and stuff like that. But we basically just started dining back in restaurants. I want to say June, beginning of June, end of May, and now it's a mess again. Everyone's wearing masks. You get dirty looks if you don't wear one. It's just a bunch of bullshit, man. It's just getting out of control. I'm just fed up with this crap. I'm just fed up with this shit, man.
Now, is there any like priority versus for like the vaccinated versus unvaccinated, or is it's completely besides the point?
No, that's all coming. That's all building steam here. You're starting to see more and more places requiring it. As far as jobs, you're hearing like school. The teachers are going to need it, and now there's talk that they're trying to pass legislation. These freaking Fruit Loops up north trying to pass legislation, for a passport, a vaccination passport. Yeah. And it's like, it's like California, man. She's just like she's a dumb blonde. It's like she's a beautiful state. She's got everything going for her, but she's just got nothing upstairs. It's like it's aggravating,
Yeah.
So
what did you think about what did you think about your boy with his little PR stunt with his son running on stage?
Who's that?
Your governor, man. Your favorite governor.
Ain't my governor. Whoa, slow the wagons there, cowboy. Ain't my governor. Dude, he's so full of crap, man. That guy is such a piece of shit.
Yep.
Because, I tell you, coming from New Jersey and moving to California, I did not expect. I expected the Democratic bullshit, the Democrat bullshit, the far left. I expected some of that, but what I didn't expect was the level of corruption in this state. I mean, it makes New Jersey. It's usually the unions that are ripping you off, or that's the corrupt part. And you're like, okay, this is the way business is done. Out here, it's the politicians, but they're just blatant about it, and it's just. This guy, he's no better. I mean, look who his aunt is. Look at the circles he's rolling with.
Yeah.
He's everything that California doesn't need.
Right. Yeah, they don't even try to hide the dirty shit that they do. They just do it out in the open, and it's too fucking bad.
It's nuts. It's not. I mean, perfect example, the last election. They had the last governor, Moonbeam, another Fruit Loop. He passed legislation for, like, this gas tax. Now, we pay a lot for gas as it is, right?
Yep.
And he passed it, or he signed an order or whatever it was, some deal, and the state found out, the legislation said, wait a minute, that wasn't constitutional. You have to let it be voted upon by the people. Because they have all these resolutions out here, right? And so, or propositions, right? So you go to vote, and it's like, do you approve of the gas tax? The way they worded it, it was like, yes, everyone picked, because it was saying, like, by voting for this, you're not voting for, the gas tax.
Right. It was like a double negative the way they worded it, right?
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it's California.
It was they worded it as if it was like funding for highways or something like that.
What was that?
They worded it as if it was like funding for highways or something like that. It was like, this is, you're voting to fund highways.
Yesterday, we went to Santa Barbara, and they're doing construction on all the highways, but they've been doing construction on the highways since we moved here 4.5 years ago.
Yeah.
It never ends.
So it's like, it's not like it's going anywhere. Listen, dude.
Yeah, well, you hire the cheapest contractor, and he takes 5 years on a 1-year project, so.
Yeah, and it'll be over budget. It's just the way it is. It's just it's very poorly run.
Yeah.
It was decent when we moved out here. I got to tell you guys, it was decent when we moved out here. But
and I mean, shit, that was only what 4 years ago.
Yeah, it'll be 4 years. We've been out here 4 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Crazy how much can
5
change.
years. 4 to 5 years. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I think 5 years now. 5 years. 5 years. And so, yeah, it went fast. But first 3 years, man, it was great, man. Everything was going smooth. And then the election changed, and then the election came around, and it got ugly, and then, and COVID hit, and it just, you can't imagine how many people are leaving, It's sad, because it's a good state, and California's a good people, but a little bit pussies, you know what I'm saying? They don't like to cause confrontation, and that's their fault, because you know what? They need to push back more, and maybe people will listen.
Yeah. That's a good point. We talk about that on the podcast all the time, how Republicans seem to, tend to be a little more reaction based versus, being on the opposition. And I think that's, that's a big problem just the entire Republican Party has. But another thing.
You know why that is, though? Because we're too busy freaking working.
Oh, yeah.
Families are doing what we got to do. We
Yeah.
got time to put up with that, deal with that shit.
Right.
Until it's so bad, and then you're like, shit, now we got to do something.
Yeah.
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 And then you hire a Jewish attorney to deal with it.
But there's something to be said with, like, their strength in numbers, and it's something that the government takes advantage of. They split us up so we can't, push back in large numbers like that.
Yeah. I mean, listen, every state has its problems, right? There's no perfect state, right? Every state has their problems, but it's just, the way that they deal with them is critical, because the way they deal with shit out here, you're just like, whoa. And then you see what they do over by you guys in Florida, and you're like, what?
Mm-hmm.
It all, that's just the way the state is. Every state has its own personality. What they need to do with this state is they need to go see a shrink and realize it's bipolar, because it's too big. We cut it in half, and I tell you guys, it would be Shangri-La. It freaking pisses me off, boys. It freaking pisses me off. These Democrats get this freaking beautiful weather, man. I mean, I said yesterday to my wife, I said, how come they get this state with this weather? I mean, this weather is freaking beautiful. You cut the gas down to, like, I'm paying $4.60 a gallon.
Oh my God.
Cut it down to like $3. I'll even put up with that. $3.50 I'll even put up with.
Man.
But it's just, it pisses me off, man. How come they get to keep the cool places? Key West.
Yeah.
Here.
Well, yeah, because you were saying, like, Southern California, where you live, is completely polar opposite from the Northern California people, right?
Oh yeah, I'm in Ventura County. Next county up from Los Angeles County. Actually, a town over from the county line. But it's predominantly conservative, all right. And the thing about Ventura County is, it's got a good mix. It's got a relatively large city not too far from here that's predominantly Latino, Mexican Americans, and it's a good mix. And you got a lot of Democrats, so there's a good balance in this county. But you go 10 miles to south of here, and you go to L.A. County, it's a shit show, boys.
Yeah.
It is a shit show, So it's gotten worse,
Yep.
And majority of the state is different. But then you go south of L.A. County, Orange County, which is very conservative.
Right.
And the funny thing is, Ronald Reagan's buried here in Ventura County, and Nixon's buried down in Orange County. It's pretty funny, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's that's what it is. But how's it going by you guys? Everything, is it getting a little crazy? Is it kicking back up?
Cases are going up, and got some people making excuses for why we should start doing certain things like masking and things like that, but nothing too crazy yet.
Yeah, well, your governor just signed legislation or pushed legislation for a state, like Abbott did in Texas, right? They put in legislation or passed law that said you can't require mandates without the state's approval.
Yeah, but
didn't they just do that down there?
Yeah, and then the district judge just overturned it.
Oh, right.
Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit, but
yeah, well, that's politics,
Yeah,
who really runs this country, though, right, boys? Who do you think runs this country?
The banks.
Well, give me some other opinions, Cam.
Politics on the rocks.
Politics.
Who? What?
No, I don't. Who runs the country? People with money.
Who runs this country?
People behind the curtains. I don't think we see them.
QAnon.
You know who runs this country? The United States Supreme Court. is who runs this country.
Oh, yeah.
Everything
Yeah.
comes down to them nowadays because everything's litigated. And
Right,
they
but
are
they're
stealing this country. Right
but they're all bought and paid for. You know what I mean? By these big corporations that lobby and.
yeah, I guess. But hey, bro, that's the way the game is played. What are you going to do? You know, it's
Burn
to
it
a
all
point.
down.
Yeah.
You know,
Break it all down.
listen. You know,
Yeah.
I shit. Try and finance a family of 4. Never mind a whole nation. You know, you got to get some money from somewhere.
Yeah, I have this this rule of thumb where I don't trust anybody who thinks they know what's right for 320 million people.
Yeah, I learned that. I learned that with Newsom. I don't like the fact that one man shut down a state of 40 million
Yeah, it's fucked.
for a year and a half. I mean, that's what scared. I think that's what scared a lot of people, and that's why they call it the Great Escape. I mean, you know, when you have one guy that can make that call, and you're like, everyone's looking at each other like, what do we do now? You
Yeah.
know, like, what do we go burn down? The governor's mansion?
Yeah, and these
It's that. I can. Let's put it this way. This is a bad comparison. You know, what this coming. You know, people calling in saying, "No, you can't compare it to." I don't give a shit. Here's the deal. I could see how Hitler came to rise in Germany and just walked across Europe.
Oh, dude, I've gotten so much shit for
People
making
are
that
sheep,
comparison.
bro. Sheep.
Yeah.
Yeah, these psychopaths revel in that power. Just being able to tell people you're not allowed to go to work, like they love it.
Oh yeah, we have
nuts.
we have a nation of hall
Nuts.
monitors now.
Cut
A
out that
quick
website.
question for you, there, Uncle Craig. When
Yo.
that man shut down a state, like, what, 40 million or what did you say? By any chance, did you get to go to his vineyard that was still open?
I'll tell you something, bro. The only way I go to that vineyard is if I had the shits. That was the only place in town. That's the only way I go to that place. I wouldn't give that guy a dime. I'll tell you, they hate him out here. We were driving up, like I said, we went up to Santa Barbara yesterday to take a ride, and there are signs along the 101, like the recall, because the election's coming up in 2 weeks, pretty much. And
I didn't realize it was that close.
there's signs everywhere. Vote yes, the recall, and vote yes to recall. A lot of people are pissed. He hurt a lot of businesses, man.
Yeah,
And it was one guy. It was one guy.
and that I think that's where
no
people.
one questioned his authority and said, "Wait a minute, can you do that?" You know?
Yeah, I think that's where people start
It's
to
nuts.
wake up, right? Whenever it hits them in the pocketbook, hard like that.
Well, what's crazy about that whole situation was this. All right, he closed down a lot of small mom and pop places, right, for 3 weeks or whatever it was when they had the real shutdown. Right, it was just like supermarkets left open. But yet, Home Depot's, the mom and pop hardware stores were closed, right, or the smaller restaurants were closed. But yet, a lot of the big chains, the big industrial, the big franchises were open, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you say to yourself, it's like, dude, what's up with that?
Money.
And that's what killed them, because it's all the mom and pop, and entrepreneurs that are like, we're out of here. We ain't dealing with that.
Mm-hmm.
All the productive
It
people
opened a lot
gone.
of people's eyes.
Yeah. So what do you think about his big push for moving the vote to majority mail-in?
Dude, I already got my ballot. I mean, dude, let me tell you something. This fucking state, dude, with the election, it was a mess. I gotta tell you, it was a mess. I mean, I'm not big to playing the internet, the fake news stuff on Facebook that goes around. Listen, I live where I live because Ronald Reagan's buried 3 miles away, right? I mean, my theory was, all right, listen, if it was good enough for Ronald Reagan and Frank Sinatra, it's good enough for me, right? So, I believe in Reagan's theory of trust but verify. So I always see these stories, and then I Google it up, and I don't just go by Snopes or whatever that is. I look at the stories. You can see where it comes from, how they get twisted over, like report after report. And I got to tell you, some of the crap that was going on here, it was like you couldn't find a source that gave you the truth, because you know why? It was the truth. Like the shit that was going on, it was like, what? Finding them in people's cars, and it's like right there, man. The system's broken.
Yeah.
And so of course he's like, you know why? He's pushing for it. Let's face it, dude. He won. They won one election. Why not just do it for another?
Yeah.
That's less organized and less publicized.
Right.
There's that whole. That's the thing with this state. A lot of the people are going out on the day of the election, going to the polls and voting.
Good.
Because that whole mail ballot thing didn't go over good.
Right.
And I think both sides can agree with that to a point.
Did you see that the mail ballots had some like holes on the front that I guess are I've heard that they were typical or something, but you could, if you put your ballot in the wrong way, you could see like what people voted for. If they voted yes or no on the recall.
I wouldn't doubt it. We just got a check today. And my wife was, why are we getting a check? She's like, I don't know. I'm like, we don't qualify because they're still giving more money to the people out here.
Just bribing you.
We don't qualify. We don't qualify for it. Because we're over that income level. We got a check. I'm like, what do you do? She's like, I don't know. I'm like, fucking keep it. What the hell? I don't even think they checked. I think they just sent everyone checks, and that's another thing that drives me. That's a big problem out here. Is everyone's getting dependent on this. There are people who are dying for employees. I know that's nationwide, but I guarantee if there was a report or a study, it's worse here because they're still throwing in that $600 or $300 a week.
Jeez.
To everyone.
Wow.
Yeah, Desantis put an end to that pretty much as soon as he could.
Yeah.
You have to, bro.
Yeah.
Otherwise, dude, listen. If I could say to you, all right, I'll give you $500 a week to go,
jerk off.
Cut down freaking, grass alongside A1A, filled with snakes and shit that want to kill you, or sit on your ass for $500 a week, and I'll give me an extra $300.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't blame people, bro.
No.
It's a smart economic move.
Yeah.
Right.
You're de-incentivizing people to go to work. Yeah.
If there's one thing that we realize through all this is like how important your governor is. How much power he has.
Yeah.
I think before we didn't really care. We didn't think it was that an important of a position. But then you look now and you realize, holy crap, this guy has an enormous amount of power over us.
And let me tell you something. And that's why when I tell people, Ken, that's a good point. That's why when I tell people, like, oh, in the last year and a half, it's just gone to shit. Some people are like, oh, nah, come on. No, it wasn't bad. But when you have one man controlling the state, and he shuts it down, and this guy just tanked this place. I mean, listen, we got Rose and I, with my wife, we have our finger, our finger on the pulse of Texas because I don't see us being along here for too long, being here for too much longer. And I got to tell you, you start paying attention to how many companies have moved out of this state in the last year. Something like 1,200 major corporations left.
Wow,
holy shit!
And it's crazy. And then I went on this fishing trip, and guys in he's in the machining industry, and Haas Automotive, which is the Cam on that show, that Haas.
Oh yeah, that's a big Formula One team.
He's out here, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's leaving California. Everyone's leaving California because of one man.
Yeah.
He made it so hard to
survive,
stay open, and then he made it hard for you to get back open, to get back up to operations, even when you were allowed to open because no one was working. Jeez. So everyone's, screw it, we're out of here, and it's a shame because I got to tell you, if the state was run by the right people, it'd be a great place, except there's no water.
Well, yeah, shit, that's a whole nother discussion in itself, right? I mean, you're trying to supply the entire state with one source of water.
Oh, dude, it's amazing. If any of you guys ever get a chance, drive across the Mojave or the Sonoran Desert, more of the Mojave. You see how they get that water from the Colorado to Los Angeles. It's amazing, dudes. You'll be in the middle of the desert, and all you see is just this canal running through it,
Yeah.
And it's all water being fed to Los Angeles,
That's wild.
Yeah, but listen, it's I sound like my
feat of engineering.
Yeah.
But, listen, it's politics, boys.
Yeah.
That's what politics on the rocks is about, boys.
Hell yeah.
Oh,
show,
shit.
Man.
Well,
when do you guys run?
What's that?
Run local, Nick.
Oh, well,
run
yeah.
local.
I'll give you. We'll talk after the show a little bit, but the four of us are working on something kind of cool, and we haven't really told anybody yet because it's still in the works. But yeah, we'll fill you in.
Yeah, listen, dude, I got to send you. We were talking about the other day. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
No, I got to send you I'll send you pictures of the candidates that are running for the fine state of California's governor. I'll tell you something. If some of those freaking morons could fucking run, you guys got it in the bag. Because dude, you crack up looking at it. One's like a porn star. Caitlyn Jenner. What was the other one guy? His platform is "Can you dig it?" And he's like wearing sunglasses. Another kid, he's like got an associate arts degree in political science.
Oh, jeez.
These are people. This is the second largest, one of the second largest state in the continent of the U.S. Right?
Yep.
I mean, 40 million people. It's the largest populated state. And this is how our elections run? Dude, come on, bro. You know, it's a mess.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Yeah, but I mean,
It's a mess.
at least Caitlyn Jenner only killed, what, 2 people? So that's not that bad.
Oh my god.
She wins.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
She probably has the least amount of blood on her hands as far as politicians go.
You ever see how they make fun of her on South Park? It's hysterical.
Oh god, I bet.
She's always running over people.
Hey, dude, that
So,
mom and kid probably had it coming.
Oh shit. Well, hey, Uncle Craig, man, we appreciate the call
Yeah,
in. Hopefully this is something we could do somewhat regularly. I think our guests will
let me
like you
know.
on here.
we'll feel it out.
Yeah, man.
It's a work in progress because I didn't know like how far you guys let me go with the screaming and yelling. And my wife comes out, and starts yelling at me, and then I'm fucking yelling at her because she's yelling at me, and then
That's
so
great
shit,
entertainment.
Yeah.
What you do is just feel it out. If
Yeah,
you don't
man.
want to use it, don't use it. No offense. You know?
Yeah.
Work. We can tweak it from there, and we'll go whatever.
Yeah. Well, shit, man. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Uncle
All
Craig.
right, motherfuckers. Have a good night, guys.
Take
Have
it
a
easy,
good one,
bro.
Craig.
Peace. Marine Corps Staff Sergeant Darren T. Hoover.
Sergeant Yohani Rosario Picardo.
Sergeant Nicole G.
Corporal Hunter Lopez.
Corporal Deegan Page.
Corporal Humberto Sanchez.
Lance Corporal David Espinoza.
Lance Corporal Jared Schmitz.
Lance Corporal Riley McCollum.
Lance Corporal Dylan Marola.
Lance Corporal Kareem Nakawi.
Navy Hospitalman Maxton Sovak.
Army Staff Sergeant Ryan Naus. Your deaths were not in vain.
You guys served for something greater than yourselves.
And nobody can take that from you.
And you will not be forgotten.
I don't even really know how to open this. I mean, we talked about this already, but
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things that have changed or have occurred since last time.
Yeah,
right? So we can kind of start anywhere.
yeah, it's really, I don't know. That fucks with me because it didn't that didn't need to happen. You know, that was a complete fault of incompetence, leadership, incompetence.
Yeah.
It just pisses me off. You know.
So maybe you guys can help me like understand this situation because for me it seems so strange and it seems like ridiculously incompetent. But like, I don't understand why there's people just like huddled up in like an airport. Like, why haven't they? Why has it has been this difficult to just do like had made like an actual plan. And like got people out when they needed to get out, when everybody else got out, and yeah, it just seems
because we left in the middle of the night.
Yeah,
We literally left in the middle of the night, and we just left. We pulled troops out, and then when we seen that the Taliban were making such advancements throughout the country, we said, "Oh fuck, we need to go back," and we sent a fraction of the troops that needed to be sent back, and at that point, most of the region was already under control, so we had to they were instructing people to stay inside of the airport,
Which was pretty much the only place that U.S. had control of.
Yeah.
In Afghanistan.
right?
At the end
So,
there.
yeah, it was just every decision that could have been made was not made correctly.
One of the things that just kind of blows my mind about the decisions as far as extending the date and all that is that, the original Trump date, people will say, Trump was going to pull out too, so it would have been a disaster then too. Well, possibly, but first of all, not going to make the death of those soldiers political, but we're strictly talking about the pullout now. That's one of the things people need to understand is in Afghanistan there's a fighting season, and the Taliban basically go into hiding throughout the winter, and they don't they don't fight. They don't come out to fight in the winter.
They're kind of like bears.
Yeah, they're just like bears. And and they so whenever the original date was set in May, that's basically the beginning of the fighting season. So if there was a contingency plan throughout, April into May to pull out, that would have been done before the Taliban would have mobilized to start taking towns and taking parts of Afghanistan. But then Biden elected to push the pullout date to the end of the fighting season.
And a lot of people believe that was purely political. Because
Right.
Well, it was. Wasn't it supposed to be on 9/11?
It's like a symbolic thing, and it's tactically it was really stupid because now the fighting season starts, the Taliban come out, they start taking towns, they take them a lot faster than we think they can, and now we're in the middle of a rushed pullout where we have to contend with Taliban forces that are moving in as we're trying to pull out, and then next thing you know, they're on the doorstep, they're controlling Kabul before we even got the chance to pull out. And then the only spot that the Americans controlled was the airport. And then, it's just chaos, absolute chaos. People flooding into the airport because they're trying to escape the Taliban. A lot of these people in Kabul were somehow affiliated to, American forces in some way, and they might have been interpreters, they might have been they could have given very little intelligence, but they were still in the system as people who gave intelligence at some point.
And we handed over that list of people to the Taliban.
Yeah, that was absolutely insane. And it's just a total these people have been in charge of this war. Like, Biden has been there the entire time. How does he not understand these things that happen in Afghanistan where the fighting season starts and then anything can happen, right? Like, why would you not want to pull out before that potential disaster starts? It's crazy to me that they just didn't even consider that.
It seems like it was like I said, a totally political move on his part that ended in a total disaster. I mean, not only was it like a symbolic thing with the 9/11 thing, but from a political standpoint, he had to pull out because that was an agreement. But he didn't have to do it on that day because then it would have been like he's falling in line with Trump's original plan. So it looks better for him to do it on his own terms.
It's kind of funny because one of the things I remember them saying about Trump whenever he made that deal to pull out in May was, he's negotiating with terrorists, right? He's making a plan with the terrorists. He's negotiating with them. Well, now look at us.
Right.
Yeah. They're literally
asking the Taliban for security for the airfield.
They're whenever the American Secretary of Defense was it wasn't the Secretary of Defense. It was General Mattis who was asked about not Mattis, sorry, Milley. He was asked about what about the people making their way to the airport? How can you guarantee security for them? And he said, the Taliban have promised us that they will provide security for anybody making their way to the airport. Can you imagine?
The
a U.S. general saying that, the Taliban are going to provide security for us.
Yeah, the same people we've been fighting for 20 years.
That's just insane.
Well, one of the groups we've been fighting for 20 years.
Yeah, one of the many.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just
what a mess.
And then to not only say that with a straight face, but then hand them a list of all the people that we've worked with. I don't even know.
It's like a kill list. Just hand them a kill list.
I don't even know how you can defend that that course of, like you said, these are fucking generals. Like, these are the highest level of military officials we have, and that was literally the best plan they could come up with.
Yeah, that's something to be said too. Is I know we want to put this on Biden and other people and there's definitely something to be said about that.
Well, at the end of the, not to cut you off, but at the end of the day, he is the commander in chief.
Yeah. No, I'm
So-
not, and I'm not like I don't want. I'm not taking
Right,
anything
I know
away
you're
from
not.
that. I'm just saying, like,
Commander in Queef.
I'm just saying, like, there's also some like accountability to be put on these generals and stuff because they're the ones that are like reporting back to him,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And these people, like, have they been just like telling him lies as far as like what is actually taking place? I mean, to me, it seems that way. They're sort of in their own way justifying their position, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then,
It's hard to believe they're that incompetent, right? Like they're that clueless.
yeah, well, or that or they're lying,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, that's
Exactly.
that's true, right? Like, I mean, that's another possibility
Mm-hmm.
that it is like more nefarious than just being incompetent. That like, hey, no, everything's great. We're doing our job. We're doing a good job here, and this is
Right.
and the Taliban.
The region's stable. We could pull out.
exactly.
Yeah.
But like, clearly, it's not.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, I know he's the commander in chief, but if you're relying on these other people to tell you, you know, what's happening, you know, and then, you know, you make a move, even obviously it was a terrible one,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, on some level, they should be to blame too. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely
Mm-hmm.
right, and I know the video has gone around quite a bit, and you know if you're listening and you haven't seen it, look up Stuart Scheller, Scheller. He was a lieutenant colonel.
Yep.
Lieutenant colonel in the Marine Corps, and he was pretty quick to speak out on this. I think it was, you know, short, like, I don't know, maybe a few hours after the bomb went off and killed the 13th service member. And he made a short video. It was 4 or 5 minutes long, basically demanding that his senior leaders, so General Wiley, or Milley and, you know, the likes, to take accountability for the incompetence and the disaster that occurred there. And the next morning, he was relieved of his duties. And I don't know what I'm getting at, but
I mean, this is a guy who's, I mean, he served 17 years.
yep.
So he's not at his retirement yet, which is at 20 years, where, you know, you're basically safe. I mean, a lot of times at 17, 18 years, you're safe, but
Not if you do something like that.
But he had a lot to lose, and he was a battalion commander, so he had a position of authority, and
He actually fought and led troops.
right, and so he came out, you know, against these leaders, or at least calling them out, and demanding some sort of repercussion. You know,
Yep.
it's only justified that someone answers to,
And not even like repercussion in the sense that like he wasn't calling anybody to resign. He was literally saying anybody needs to come forward and take at least some amount of responsibility and make this right. And he was let go. And then, you know, in a later video, he actually he uploaded, I don't know, yesterday or today at some
in
point.
civilian clothes. That
Yeah.
time.
He resigned all of his benefits, and I guess he's, you know, he was still in the Marines at this point.
He looked a lot happier.
He did, yeah. All he had to do was do 3 more years, and he could retire happily. But nope, he said that's not enough. He's resigning, and he's coming after the entire Marine Corps and all of the senior leaders to basically demand. Well, he worded it a little more boldly than that. He plans on taking the entire fucking system down, I think was
Right.
his direct
He said
quote.
his
but-
last line in his most recent video was "Follow me, and we'll take the whole fucking system down."
yeah,
And that I just like started, my
Yeah, I
balls
get
were tingling
fired
after
up.
that.
Yeah, I felt my
That was amazing.
balls swell up with cum.
I thought you were gonna say pride.
The same thing. You call it pride, I call it cum. Whatever.
Something that comes to mind on my mind when you guys are talking about all this, for whatever reason, is, you know, who made the mistake here? And obviously we can put blame on everybody because everybody's attached to it at some point. But I think for us, or for me personally, at some point, you know, I think many of you believe, Biden really isn't in control anymore. Or he hasn't been probably since day one.
Right.
So at that point, I can't really even blame him anymore because he's just a fucking meat puppet that gets brought out once every 5 weeks so people still know he's alive. So at that point, this is maybe more for more Republican people, we have to stop blaming Biden all the time. Like, obviously, we can still blame him because he's the president, and like Nick said, he is still the commander-in-chief. But if we all believe that he's not in control and that other people control, whether it be the deep state, whatever it may be, there's people we have to blame. And it sucks because there's no specific name to those people. So how do you blame those people? I don't know. But at some point, I don't know. It's just something that came to mind. It's like,
yeah, I mean,
it's almost
Secretary
like
of Defense Lloyd Austin.
It's like exactly
There's
what they
one.
want, right? Because if you
General
think about
Milley.
this, yeah. Good
Another one.
names. And if you think about this is exactly what they want. They want people to blame Biden because they don't fucking care about Biden. He'll be out in 2.5 years. They'll put some other meat puppet in place.
Right, they got their cush jobs at the Pentagon.
Yeah.
Where they can fuck up royally and not have to take accountability for it and continue to fuck up.
To put it simply, nobody who has made it past a certain point in the military is, on our side of things because
they get washed out.
Because past a certain rank in the military, it's all political. It's 99% of it's political.
Yeah.
And that's why you see so many incompetent people up in those high ranks, and it's because they just
they're yes men.
Polished chodes their whole fucking career until they got to the top, and this is what you end up with is an army of relatively good people from the people that I know, the people who are in leadership positions of like direct leadership, like battalion commanders and people like what was his name again,
Stuart Scheller,
Lieutenant Colonel Scheller, and so those types of people are the people who they get put in positions of direct authority over soldiers because they're actually good leaders. And then these other people advance further in the political sphere. And, it's really concerning to see. It's like, I mean, I've been doing a lot of, watching videos on Roman history and like, holy shit, this whole thing just reminds me of that. Just like the whole politicizing of the military.
Yeah.
And, it's pretty bad.
With something that I found super interesting about this whole thing, and I'm in some way mimicking some of our favorite podcasters, people like Dave Smith and so forth. But it's such a good point; it can't go, unannounced. Is the fact that like you see like news stations like CNN and people coming out like really against Biden on this, and there's so many other things that could have gone after him on, but have been silent for the most part, right?
Yeah.
And just carrying his weight and so forth. But on this, I mean, they're giving it to him. They really are, and it goes to show you when Bookie mentioned like deep state and what's kind of behind the scenes, the Pentagon and things like that, is that these people like never wanted to leave this war.
No,
right.
And if that's not enough evidence to see CNN and all these other companies, all these other organizations come out against him on this, it just shows you how much there's this massive war machine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That like doesn't want to stop blowing stuff up and killing people.
Yeah, I mean, you saw one of the only times that they praised Trump was when he was bombing Syria.
Yeah.
They were, Brian, what's
Stelter.
his name? Yes. Wait, no.
Stelter.
No, not Brian Stelter. Sorry. The other guy. The guy that was supposedly getting shot at, but it was a lie.
Yeah.
I can't remember his
Keep
name.
talking, I'll look it up.
But, he was, like, talking about America's beautiful weapons and how it was just, like, it was beautiful to see these missiles shooting into the night, like during the Trump administration. It was, like, the one compliment they ever gave him was when he was bombing the shit out of Syria.
When he killed children and assassinated a leader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's another thing is they've supposedly targeted ISIS-K members, which by the way, has been an organization for 6 years now. Most people are just now learning about it, but they've been active in Afghanistan for a long time, and they've committed a lot of They did a bombing on a women's school where they killed like 200 people, I think in 2017 or 2018, and so they did these drone strikes on ISIS-K members, and it's like they're not even naming who they were. It's like, I bet these were just freaking goat farmers, just
Anderson Cooper.
No, still not the guy.
That was the guy who lied about being shot at.
They all lied about being shot
Yeah,
at.
that's a good
they're
point.
always
That's a good
lying
point.
about being shot at.
Hillary Clinton,
AOC.
Anderson Cooper, AOC.
It's cool to get shot at.
I think, but to add to what Cameron was saying, and both of you, I guess, I think it's a combination of that, just the establishment loving war times and how profitable it could be.
It's Brian Williams. Is who I was thinking
Okay,
of.
yep. I think it's a combination of that, and I said this from the start. I said Biden has a 2-year cap. He's not going to make full term. I don't think anybody really thinks he was going to make full term, but I think it's a combination of the establishment loving war and them. This is them signifying, okay, we're done with Biden. We're going to slowly start to push him out. And maybe this is just me putting on my Republican hat, but I really think that there's a conspiracy within the mainstream to try and usher in a true socialist president, which I think we can all agree Kamala would probably fit that bill pretty well. And if Biden's out, who's in? Him or her or Nancy, right? Or
it's
her
Kamala,
first. Yeah, it's
and then
Kamala,
it's
and then
Nancy.
it's Nancy, right.
And then it's some other douchebag, and then it's Anthony Blinken, who's...
Yep.
Yeah.
And apparently Kamala's people and Biden's people are at war right now. Have you guys seen the video of Kamala, on a hot mic type of deal saying he's not going to fucking pin this on me, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say that's it goes to show that it doesn't matter. This impeachment thing, I saw people talking about, oh, we got to impeach Biden.
Yeah, for
shut
what
the fuck
though?
up. Who
Right.
cares
Yeah.
about that? That's a waste of time, waste of effort, waste of money. Just, it's not going to do anything. So,
Yeah, stop trying to impeach people when they do something you don't like. Just get rid of the government because we don't need it.
yeah, impeach the federal government.
But
Fair.
I was trying to I wanted to mention too is a lot of the people on the Republican side, because of all this going on, and they see the media, the mainstream media saying, well, Biden's the bad guy now. They're like, oh yeah, the Biden's the bad guy. And it's one of those things where people on the Republican side have to kind of think, why is the media going after Biden now? Nick kind of alluded to a little bit, maybe they're trying to get him out. But if you look at what the Biden administration has been doing this entire time they've been in office now, they've been doing the same thing Trump's been doing that the media was blasting Trump for.
Right.
Yeah,
So it's
I just seen a post that was Biden is everything the media said Trump was.
Yeah.
And, you can pick that apart however much you want, but
Yeah, and
I think it's a pretty good point.
for the
because
most part, it's true.
Right,
There's still
exactly.
kids in cages.
Yeah.
Fucking, he hasn't really done anything with any progressive stances.
Defunding the police.
Correct.
Or, yeah.
He's increased funding for the police. So again, think about why hasn't the media gone after Biden on all these things that they were adamant of getting Trump in the news about all the time, and just stop playing into this trap the media does, where Republicans will say we don't trust the media anymore, but as soon as they say something you like, you fucking jump on that
Yeah,
dick
they
as soon as
drool
you
them
can.
out.
Remember
over it.
whenever he appointed Rex Tillerson as I think he was the Secretary of the Treasury, and they're like, oh, Exxon Mobil executive, Trump's just putting in his crony corporatists in,
But Biden
Look
appoints
at
a
Biden's-
Raytheon executive.
Yeah, look at Biden's cabinet. It's
Yeah.
all freaking Citibank, it's all these freaking corporatists, and not a peep from the media about that. So,
No.
I
think
it
it's
says a lot.
worth pointing out too all the progressives that were so vocal about the felon rapist wife beater that got granted wrongly killed by the police. Where the fuck are they talking about all this shit?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't. I mean, I follow a good amount of people I went to high school with that are extremely progressive, which is cool, whatever. when it's in their eyes a righteous cause, they won't shut the fuck up about it. But when our guys die over there in a extremely righteous cause, I mean, they're trying to save people from pretty much imminent torture and death, and not a peep. And these are the same people that said, oh, now that Biden's in office, we're going to hold him accountable. We're going to call him out when he fucks up.
Yeah.
Nothing.
All right.
I think later tonight, maybe after we finish this bottle and I'm like stupid drunk, I'm just going to message all of them. Be like, where the fuck you at?
No.
Is that a good idea? No, it's a good idea.
It wouldn't be unlike you to do something like that.
Yeah.
No, it's just, I mean, this whole thing really has just shown that either side, like you mentioned, the people on the left or, more progressive side, you just gotta think, like, what's going on? Like, this has been happening. Same things that happened with Trump are happening with Biden. The mainstream media wasn't talking about it. Now that he's out of a war or pulling out of one of many wars, they're bashing him. We just have to open our eyes more of like what's going on. And I think the more people that thankfully are realizing it now, hopefully, maybe the progress can happen in a sense that we're looking for with more liberty. Because I think just locally with this mandate, not to bring it back to that, but you see a lot more people posting online or even at that meeting or just for more freedom, which is good to see. Mm-hmm. Now you just got to take the extra step and make sure you apply that to most cases of your life when it comes to government.
Yep.
Not just where it's convenient.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me not to be like a doomer right now, but I mean, something's got to fucking give, right? Like, we can't continue to operate the way we've been operating. We can't continue to step into these countries who have been, fighting each other for over 100 years and bomb the shit out of them and say that we're somehow liberating their country and, trying to install this government where democracy is number one. And I don't know. I just don't see how we come back from this. I really don't. Like, how can we as a nation with a straight face go to any other country and, tell them we're going to take care of them and we're going to, fix their country and whatever. And if shit goes south, we'll make sure they're taken care of.
Yeah. And I still see people buying into that too. Like,
I don't know.
Like, as we're pulling out, they're like, oh, the most horrible thing about this is that, they're not going to have democracy. I'm just like,
that is the least of their worries, dude.
What democracy? The Taliban literally walked within a 50-mile radius, and everybody that supposedly had a political power in Kabul just fucking left.
Just
that's
vanished.
A puppet.
All political
democracy.
Power vanished.
Yeah,
in thin air.
How many trillions of dollars went to a puppet?
14
democracy over there. Like, that's just bullshit, man. Like, people who think there's democracy over there, like, you're just lying to yourselves. The fact that
same could be said about people that think democracy exists here.
True, but I mean, it's more. It's more apparent there when their supposed leaders in Afghanistan literally just leave.
Yeah,
like,
and they were more corrupt than American politicians. Like, they Americans taught them well.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's crazy, man.
It's insane. There was so many of the ANA forces. They weren't even present anymore. They were like ghost armies because they had deserted. And this was reports that came out like years ago. This wasn't new developments. And later on, Americans found out. American military forces over there found out that the commanders were just pretending that their forces were all there still and collecting all their paychecks.
Much like our commanders.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the ones that were citing whatever they want back to, the Pentagon. Everything's good. Everything's great. These guys are going to be great. They're going to hold up. When everybody knew that they weren't.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there was even...
Anybody who saw them do jumping jacks.
Yeah.
And there was even a report when Biden was saying that there's no evidence that the Taliban will take over the way that they did, and you're not going to see, helicopters leaving the embassy on, from roof, whatever he said. There was, it later came out that there was a report saying that, the ANA forces are not like that basically too long didn't read. The Taliban will take over the region extremely quickly if we pull out the way we did. Which is, that's besides the point, but knowing that, the pullout strategy should not have been what it was.
Yeah. No.
Pullout game weak as fuck.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to sum that up.
And I'm at an opinion that no matter how we pulled out, it probably would have been a shit show.
Yeah.
Two different differing levels of it. Obviously, you can point to easy things like the stuff we left over there could have been taken care of. But I think no matter how we pulled out, what happened, it would have been a shit show that the mainstream media would have jumped on as soon as that happened to point out every little small thing. Again, I'm not trying to take away from anything that's happened because it's fucking terrible. With the Kabul airport, people are just sitting there falling off airplanes, trying to get out of there. But I don't know. It's what we dug ourselves a fucking humongous hole, and then we unfortunately have to get out of the hole, and more casualties have to happen. It sucks.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's one of the biggest things. It's like there's really no one to blame but the U.S., right?
Mm-hmm.
So we, kind of inherently bear that responsibility.
Yeah, I just want to. This is the last thing I think I want to say about this, but just to say kind of what Bookie has already said in different words is that yeah, we want to bash Biden, and I don't want to sound like I'm defending Biden here because I'm not, but there's been four presidents involved in this,
Yeah.
and two of which were Republican presidents and two Democratic presidents, and the whole thing has been a shit show all the way through, right? It's just now it's all coming to pass and it's all ending, quote unquote, now, and it's I know our Republican friends want to bash Biden and say, oh, look what he's doing in ball. He's done all this wrong and so forth, and obviously he has done something wrong. But don't forget why we were there in the first place.
Yeah,
it was your
the
guy,
Republican. Yeah,
your guy put us there.
Lied to us.
Yeah, and then the next guy kept us there, and then the next guy kept us there.
Yeah.
So you guys got to really take a look at the full picture of this thing and realize that the U.S. loves to get in wars and loves to stay in wars, and we have to rethink. You have to rethink your whole political ideology if it's based a lot on wars and so forth.
We have this empirical mindset, but the worst kind of empirical mindset. I mean, any empirical mindset's bad, but we just can't sustain the way that as far as our military occupation goes. We're creating more enemies than we're doing anybody any good.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't think of any war really that the U.S. has been involved in that you can say was a good thing.
Yeah, well, the thing is a good thing for some people. Some people are making a lot of money.
In America.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
7 or 8 corporations.
Yeah, and that's a sad thing. But I don't know, this is my not campaign speech, but hey, consider looking at something different. Consider
this
the liberty movement. Consider really looking at things differently, because right now and back then and in the past, whatever, you want to trumpet your guy, but your guy didn't do anything different, bro. Your guy didn't do anything different,
right?
And like Bookie said, this was all going to end in a bad way.
Agreed.
And I don't know, man. Consider something different. Do it.
Now,
one last thing that I wanted to bring up that we haven't brought up yet, and I brought it up before we started recording, and it's totally switching gears, but going back to Lieutenant Colonel Scheller, once he put out his videos and stuff, the Marine Corps has made a statement, and they basically said that they are concerned about Lieutenant Colonel Scheller's mental health.
Yeah.
Implying that he's crazy or something.
Right.
So
keep in mind,
it just kind of shows you the tactics that they will choose.
And keep in mind, he is the only person that has been let go or fired over this entire tragedy.
Yeah, but
and he was and he was fired for coming out and saying somebody needs to be held accountable for this disaster because it did not need to happen the way that it happened.
Yeah. And it reminds me of like what they did with Snowden. You know, like when he came out with his stuff and he became like a Russian spy and all this garbage stuff.
Yeah.
He would just tell him the truth.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Yep.
And then they made it like he was some evil Russian spy.
Yeah, I mean, this is, and to go back to what we talked about earlier, this goes back, I mean, this is not something new, right? This is something that Stalin did, something General Mao did, something Hitler did, something, you know, the list goes on. You find a way to discredit your opposition, and you know, it's straight out of the playbook of so many dictators that, you know, have done some of the most horrendous things in history.
Yeah, just open a history book that wasn't provided by your public school.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, do it soon though, because they'll all be gone.
Yeah,
they'll all be gone in a couple
in a
years.
fire pit.
Yep.
Yeah. But that won't be comparable to what the Nazis did. Really.
No,
not at all.
And if you bring that up, they'll come for you, like they came for me.
Not until the unvaccinated are in camps can we probably. Even then, it's like, you know, they're not really Jewish people, so is it really relatable?
No, right?
They
haven't exterminated
unvaxxed rats.
I feel like that's a direct quote from something like
Probably.
Mein Kampf or something, or
Probably.
whatever the fuck his book is.
It flows good though.
Mein Cock.
Sounds good.
Well,
do you think it's a porno that's called Mein Cock?
Oh my god.
Oh god, I think it's a great place to end the.
I just want to say one
somewhere
last
out
thing. Bitcoin's on the rise, but that's it.
Let's throw that out there. It's on the rise. My entire savings that I threw into Bitcoin is on the rise.
Oh my gosh, these two fucking guys. All right, well, I think that's all we've got for you guys tonight. Yeah, see ya.